commands that you frequently use to manage your Unix environment will depend on how you're using Unix. In this demo, we'll take a look at some standard common Unix management commands, beginning with ls. ls, or list, shows us the contents within a subdirectory, in this case, the default subdirectory. Now, if I look at my prompt, it looks like I've got a tilde symbol, which implies I'm in my home directory. If I type pwd for print working directory, I can actually see I'm in the /root home directory, which means I'm logged in as user root. If I type ls space /, it shows me the contents of the root file system, whereas ls/var/log shows me what's in that location. It's also important that we understand that we can type ls-l for long listing. When I do that, I see the contents of the current directory, but it's listed in a different format, where I can see, starting on the left, the permission set, where the first set of permissions is for the owning user, which in this case is root. The next set of permission is for the group listed here, which is wheel, and then everyone else has certain permissions. I can also see things like the size of the file and some date and time information. We'll talk about things like file system permissions in another demo. The point is that ls-l gives us additional long listing information. Also, interestingly, if I do an ls/etc, we see the contents of what's in that location. I'll clear the screen, but if I do an ls-d/etc, instead it just shows me that subdirectory listing without showing me what's inside of it. Now, there are many other common Unix commands besides just ls or list, but that's a common one. Of course, we can also change directories. cd space, let's say, / goes to the root of the file system, and I can verify this with pwd, or change directory to /etc. Now, I can see it in my prompt. I can also verify it with print working directory or pwd. Now, if I just type ls, that's where I am. That's what it shows me the contents of. So I'll clear the screen. Another important command is going to be interface config, or if config. When I press enter, it shows me all of my network interfaces. Here I've got two. LO0 is the local loopback, so it's not really an active interface that sends and receives packets on the network. But here I've got one called EMO that does. I can see the hardware address, the MAC address of that network interface, and I can also see any IPv6 configuration information, as well as IPv4. I can see my address here is 192.168.0.9. Also, I can see the subnet mask, the broadcast address, and so on. Now, if I were to type, let's say, ifconfig em0, I only see information for that specific network interface. So that can be important as well when you're looking at network issues. Now I'm going to change directory back to the root. I'll type ls. I've got a file I've previously created here called cities.txt. Now I can use the cat command to view the contents of text files. Here I can see we've got just a bunch of city names. Now I could either use that command again and pipe it to grep to filter it, let's say, -i for case insensitive for London. That works. It returns only London because grep is a line filtering command. I could also use the grep command and tell it what I'm looking for, and then give it the name of the files. So let's say, or file in this case, cities.txt. So that's another way that we might work with filtering, working with that. We can also use the head command to view the first 10 lines or the specified number of lines, let's say -2, in a particular file like /var/log/messages. That's the standard Unix log file. If I want to view the last 2 lines, instead of using the head command, I could use the tail command. Now I'm seeing the last 2 entries or the most recent entries there. Other common Unix commands would include things like df-h to view human-readable disk free space. If I don't use the H, notice we don't have the easy-to-read 19G for gigabytes and so on. So that can be very important in order to check that out. We also have the option of viewing current running processes with top that are consuming the most things like CPU time slices and so on. So we can see things like the process ID, which is assigned by the kernel, the user under which something is running. We can see how much space it's using in memory. We can also see the command that initiated that process and how much CPU time it's using. So we can see here that we don't really have a whole lot going on this system. Our most processor-intensive task is using 0.01% of CPU time. I'll press Q to get out of the top command, and I'll clear the screen with the clear command. Finally, there's the history command, which shows us what we've been typing in, not just in this session, but by default in most Unix variants, it's the last 1,000 things that we've typed in, which are numbered, as you can see here, with line numbers. So let's say I wanted to run command 85 again, which is df-h. Well, I could type !85, and it runs that command again. Now, df-h isn't really hard to type in, so it's almost pointless, but with very long commands, which you'll run into sometimes, that can be very handy. We can also type history --c to clear it. And if I type clear to clear the screen and then just type history once again, notice all we see are the last two things we typed in since that was cleared.